Hey, it's Kalia, and I'm here to talk about the one and only Amuro Namie during her 90th leg of her career. If you know me from the Clock app, welcome. If you're new, also welcome. Let's talk about the Okinawan J-pop and Gyaru icon Amuro Namie. Amuro Namie, born in 1970, started off in the group Super Monkeys, which eventually became Amuro Namie in the Super Monkeys due to her immense popularity. The girls did a lot of modeling and were typical teen idols. They were not an immediate success per se, however. After debuting in 1992, 3 years later, the girls will come out with their cover of Try Me. Try Me was released in 1995 and was the girls' first commercial success. It peaked at number 8 on the Oricon chart, which is their most successful song thus far. Their cover of Lolita's Try Me really showcased the girls' superstar power. Their producer, Max, actually suggested that the girls go their separate ways, though. Amuro Namie held a lot of potential to be a solo artist, and it was something that the producers and the record label, management, all those people in the suits wanted to explore. Soon enough, the little Okinawan girl inspired by the Jacksons became Amuro Namie in 1995 with her first solo Body Feels exit. In the same year, she came out with the hit Chase the Chance, which encouraged listeners to go out and chase their dreams. Within 3 years, Amuro Namie went from an Okinawan performing arts high school student to, a huge teen idol. The other members of Amuro Namie and the Super Monkeys went on to form the group Max. If you're a Gyaru, you may actually recognize this song in particular because it's used in Para Para, as is Try Me. Para Para are easy dances that you often see Gyaru do. Max were a success in their own right. Plenty of the Gen X Japanese people that I know will hear a song by Max and can sing word for word, so I wouldn't say that the girls failed in comparison to Amuro Namie. The success of all these Okinawan people is a big deal because Okinawan people are systemically oppressed in Japan. Here is a newsreel explaining.
Japan's southernmost prefecture of Okinawa on Sunday marked the 50th anniversary of its reversion to Japan from the control of the United States. Ceremonies were held by the government to mark the anniversary, while a large number of residents gathered outside the venue demanding the reduction of the U.S. base hosting burdens and even a total withdrawal of the U.S. forces. Half a century later, Okinawans still face deep-rooted discrimination and injustice in Japan. The U.S. military bases on the island are also a nightmare for them, imposing extra burden on the prefecture. Okinawa accounts for only 0.6% of Japan's territory, but is home to about 70% of U.S. military bases in Japan. From 1972 to 2019, U.S. troops and their families stationed in Japan committed about 6,000 crimes in Okinawa, including robberies, rapes, and murders. The per capita income of the prefecture is only about 70% of that of Japan, which has long been the lowest level in the country. Okinawa was occupied by U.S. forces after the end of World War II in 1945 and ostensibly returned to Japan on May 15, 1972. Historically, Okinawa was the independent kingdom of Ryukyu. After the Meiji Restoration, Japan annexed Ryukyu and established Okinawa Prefecture in 1879.
There were Japanese people who actually tried to say that Amuro Namie was ugly. She redefined Japanese beauty standards by being proudly Okinawan and tan. Amuro Namie tried her hand at acting, most famously in the 90s film That's Cunning. The movie is about a group of college students attempting to cheat on their exam in various ways, including the horrible form of cultural appropriation we just saw a second ago, but it is the 90s. The movie is filled with a bunch of 90s nostalgia, and it holds a cult following, especially for those that are fans of Amuro Namie. If you're curious, the full film is on YouTube with English subs. If you look up Amuro Namie on Pinterest, a lot of the outfits that were actually for this movie come up. If you like 90s Japanese comedies and you like Amuro Namie, you may have a good time watching the film. Namie continued to dominate the 90s, and I mean dominate the 90s, man. This woman was huge. She became known for her exciting 2-hour-long concerts. Some of her concerts are actually on YouTube, so if you want to look them up, go ahead. One of her most famous performances is performing back at home in Okinawa, which is what you're seeing on screen right now, and is also available on YouTube, so you can go watch the whole thing. This woman dominated the 90s so hard that she had a whole legion of girls copying her, a lot of them Gyaru, called Amuro, and here's TikTok me explaining it. Let's talk about the Okinawan J-pop star Amuro Namie and her own legion of Amuras. Amuras are Amuro Namie fans that dressed up like her. And I'm not just talking about cosplay. I mean they used her as day-to-day fashion inspo. These girls were often Gyaru that dressed up like her outside of their uniform. The 90s consisted of a mod revival that also took aesthetics from various POC cultures across the diaspora. Stores clamored to keep up with not only that, but also how Amuro Namie was dressed. With her army of superfans and teenage and young adult women obsessively trying to replicate everything that she was wearing, she continued to dominate through the 90s, with stores frantically trying to replicate the things that she wore, whether it be on stage or in paparazzi photos. Namie cites people like Janet Jackson and Naomi Campbell and a bunch of other African American and Black women throughout the diaspora as her inspiration, whether it be music-wise or fashion or makeup. This is why in some songs you'll hear her rap or incorporate gospel-esque vocals that were sung by Black singers. It is also why you'll see her in the 90s with some struggle braids. To be fair, the conversation around cultural appropriation was basically non-existent, especially in the mainstream consciousness. It was active in the academic world, not so much outside of it on a grand scale that it would be in, you know what I mean. It was an uncomfortable attempt at appreciation. Let's just say that. Struggle braids. Struggle. Amuro Namie continued to be known as a very hard-working young woman desperately trying to just live out her dreams. She has a very laid-back and yet glamorous all at the same time personality that from an African-American perspective may feel similar to the image of that of Aaliyah. This contributed to her appeal to young Japanese people and young Asian people, period. She accepted her Okinawan beautiful features, including her tan skin, and she also wore what she wanted when she wanted, and no one was gonna really tell her otherwise, and if anyone did, it wasn't strong enough in a way that it altered her image as a rebellious young woman. My girl put in the work. Like the work, bro. She went on to have hit after hit after hit, including Can You Celebrate and Sweet 19 Blues. Just hit after hit, just a money maker for Avex, her label. She even became the face of a video game, which was used as a way to test the technology of the Sega Saturn. Her popularity came to a halt when she announced to the world that she was pregnant and getting married at the age of 19-20 years old to Sam, who at the time was 35 years old. I'm holding my opinion to myself right now. I'm holding my opinion. Sam was her backup dancer and also a producer at the time. This news was incredibly shocking because if you are unfamiliar with the Japanese entertainment industry, for an idol, especially a friggin' teen idol, to come out and be like, yeah, I got knocked up and now I'm getting married, it's not exactly something that is typically socially acceptable. It's not really something that Japanese people like very much. Her look at this press conference, though, ended up being iconic and symbolized the 90s of Japan. Like, I'm serious. Like, in magazines, fashion magazines, when they talk about 90s Japanese fashion, the black turtleneck, the Burberry skirt, and those boots are right there center page. Namie clearly had to take a break because, pregnant. And on top of that, there was backlash to the fact that she was, pregnant and then getting married on top of it. So her popularity did stutter for a few years, specifically in the late 90s. Many Gyaru, though, actually found her to be very inspirational for the fact that not only did she get pregnant, but she also got married, and you know what you gotta do to be pregnant, which means that she was really doing what she wanted to do with her body, and Gyaru is get wild, get sexy, be free, Things were looking a little grim for our girl Amuro Namie for a bit. Some people worried that she may never be able to properly come back. There was also the scandal of her mom being murdered by her uncle, so that didn't help either. People thought old girl was doomed, that she was done. However, Miss Amuro Namie came back as Sweet Chic, and I'll tell you about that later, because I'm going to bed.